So, this video kind of came about when I picked up this for free in the Hobby Goblin because it's an older issue of Model Rail. Now, I picked it up for the scenic tips, really, but I've now been taken by this. Revealed Britain's most wanted locomotives. Now, this is from 2017, which is 3 years ago now, 4 years ago now. No, 7. 7 years ago now, which is a bit scary. But let's see which of Britain's most wanted locomotives have actually been made and ready to run. This is going to focus on double O gauge, because I'm a double O gauge modeller, and I don't know much about other scales. So I'm going to have a flick through to find the page. There we go. Okay, so in this poll, which was done online, I believe, it happened on our own web, I think. They used to do it every year, I'm not sure if they still do it. The most wanted was a BR2MT, which is useful because Hornby have produced the tender version, and it wouldn't surprise me if the tank version gets done at some point soon as well. Interesting that one's already been done and already been released and out in the wild. I don't know how long it takes to take models, but maybe Hornby took this into consideration. Number 2, we've got a U-Class. That's not been made and ready to run, and I don't believe there are any plans for it. Manners, we've had 2 Manners, I believe. We've had Dapols and Acura scales, so we had the Manor Battles, so there's actually been 2 sets of ready to runs made of these. And a BR3MT, which I don't believe has been released and ready to run since the Triang tank version. So that's 4th. So out of the top 4, 2 of the 4 have been produced, which I don't think is bad going. Interesting that all these are medium-sized tender locos, you know, with 6-driven wheels. I just think that's quite an interesting note, isn't it, really? Let's go on to the next page. The S160s, well, Rapido are making them. That's a big old tick. Oh, that's Cops on the Turnip Valley. That's fun, isn't it? But S160s, they are being produced at the moment. I believe the order books are still open. Don't hold me to that, though. We have got a 43 XX down there. Don't know too much about these. There might have been... Oh, you slipped me. I'll leave it in the comments whether one actually has been released or not. Another 260, which is quite interesting. We've got a 120 DMU that's not been made. A Q, which is an 060, a southern one, that's not been made. And a WD 210, which is due for release by... Is it KR models, something like that? So, of 5th to 10th, 2 have definitely been released. Have definitely got ready to run models on the way. Now that got me thinking, if I was to do this, what models would I want to see in ready to run? So, let's get into that.
I'm going to start with one that I think would be cool, but won't make any sense. These are the new Merseyrail 777s. They're brand new, and they don't have much of a cult following, and they're really specific to one line, i.e. the Merseyrail Metro system. So that wouldn't make any sense to make. Running ready to run. They're brand new, so they don't have much of a following yet. They're not culturally important to the nation, although I suspect they will be for Merseyside going forward. I'm going to rewind the clock, though, and I'm going to start here for the ones I actually want to see ready to run. This is Agecroft number 2, which is a Robert Stevenson Hawthorne loco. Now, you might be thinking, Dapol have already made one of these. They've made the slightly earlier ones. There's not loads of differences between them, to be honest with you. And with how the Hawthorne Leslies have sold, and how the Pecketts have sold, and how the Andrew Barclays have sold, 4-wheeled industrial locos seem to be like hotcakes at the moment. Wouldn't make much sense to make one of these really soon. You'd just be biting into the fact that you've just released the slightly older version. But I could see Dapol doing this in like 5 years or so. Slightly older version with some revisions. There's loads of these preserved. Actually, Agecroft 1, 2 and 3 are preserved. Not many places can say that, can they? That 3 of the locos that ran there sequentially were preserved. But there's loads of these preserved. As I mentioned, the Agecroft locos, but also other odd ones here and there. So they could be measured up and produce little detail differences. Like I say, Dapol would be the one to make these, and they've proved that they are willing to do different toolings and things for cabs and what have you for the older models, so you'd think that would stand through into the slightly newer ones. This one itself was built in 1948, so we don't have too many post-war industrial locos in ready to run at the moment, so that'd be quite cool to have. Like I say, it'll be Dapol. It'll be in a few years, I think. But like I say, four-wheeled industrial locos just seem to sell really well to collectors, to people who run like mainline layouts, because it gives them an excuse to have something pootling about that's small and cute. But it also gives us industrial modelers, i.e. myself, another solid running loco that's slightly different to others. Like I say, there's really subtle detail differences between the older Robert Stephenson Hawthorne locos, which Dapple have already produced, and the slightly newer ones, such as Agecroft number 2 here, which is at Ribble Steam Railway and Museum. Like I say, I think it just makes a lot of sense to produce one of these. I think they'd sell very well as well. I did a video on this one. It had its own video. It tanked, and some new stuff's come out from a Cure Scale, so I wanted to chat about it. This is a 6-wheeled Andrew Barclay. A Cure Scale are making a 4-wheeled one based on the Heapton's tooling, and I think this would make sense to be the next stage up for their industrial sphere. It'd be quite simple to do. Andrew Barclay used a lot of common components between its 4 and 6-wheelers, thus they could use very similar components. Hornby did the similar sort of thing with their B2 to their W4, the B2 being the 6-wheeler. The 6-wheelers I don't think sold quite as well as the 4-wheelers, but I think a Cure Scale would be missing out on a market by not selling a 6-wheeled Andrew Barclay. Now that was at the Foxfield. This is also at the Foxfield. This is Howardon. This is a 1950s built Bagnall. Now, this is a very different industrial loco. There's a lot more presence here. This is actually one built in the 50s. This is a much newer design compared to a lot of the industrial steam locos that have been produced. A lot of the ones that have been produced were basically the same locos that were being built in the 1890s or so. This is very much a modern steam industrial loco. There's a lot more presence here. It looks a lot buffer, to be honest with you. Looks a lot more muscly, could certainly shift a lot more. There is a couple of these preserved. Obviously this one is at the Foxfield. This used to run on the Shelton Steel Bar, which, fun fact, I used to work in the McDonald's that's now on the old steel bar. It's not particularly relevant to this video. I just think this would be quite a cool thing to have him ready to run. I could maybe see Hornby doing it, or to be fair, Bachmann or Helgen is their first way into industrial steam. I think these would sell quite well. They don't have the cuteness factor that the Pecketts do, or the Andrew Barclays do, but there's a lot more oomph to these. They look a lot more butch. And these things got everywhere in real life. So, much like the other 4-wheelers, I think a lot of people would be looking for excuses to have one of these, although they probably don't quite have the cuteness factor of some of the other locos we've discussed. I still reckon these would be quite cool to have. And with the way that technology's come on, thinking about the Dapple, Hawthorne, Leslie's, sound fitting these, you could have them pre-fitted with sound and speakers and all that sort of good stuff. It'd be really good fun to have. Loads of detail differences as well, like we enjoy seeing from manufacturers producing industrial models. Okay, we have gone down a gauge, but up in size. These are narrow gauge Garretts built for the export market, mainly to South Africa. There's loads of these that have been since repatriated. This is one that's at the Festiniak Railway, and this is another 50s build loco actually. Just really cool locos. The 3D prints of these always sell out really quickly whenever they're put on sale, and I think it makes sense for a manufacturer. I could even see Helgen doing it because they're a bit weird. Producing one of these in ready to run for 009, and I think these things would sell like hotcakes, especially if you produced them in some of the South African liveries and some of the preservation era liveries. I think these would sell really well. It'd be something quite unique for ready to run in an already quite unique scale, where unique stuff tends to be selling really well, like the Fairleys and that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I say, there's also loads of them preserved. And that concludes locos I think should be produced in ready to run in 00 gauge or 009. Obviously these have had more of an industrial focus. I am an industrial modeler at the end of the day, and I think that is the best way to get people into the hobby, because you can produce micro layouts quite quickly. But what do you think? What locomotives would you like to see in ready to run? And who do you think would produce them? Thank you ever so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Ta-da.